Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and as always, we have a great show for you guys today on this Friday. It is NHL Draft Day, so that's going to be our fifth segment, giving live updates throughout the draft as we do go throughout this, go throughout the show. I'll be keeping you guys up to date with the picks that go. We are about halfway through this NHL Draft so far, so yep, just going to keep you guys up to date as always through it. But for this show, we'll start out with our first segment talking about the NHL Awards show from last night. We'll be going through who won the Hart, some snubs that I feel like, and just recapping the awards show from last night. Our second segment, we'll be talking about NHL trades that happened, as right now is the busy time in the offseason where a lot's going on, so we have a lot to go through for trades. I believe we have like a 5 or 6 that happened in the past couple of days to talk about. Segment 3, on the backs of the trades that happened, we're going to be talking about the Canucks freeing up some cap space to re-sign key pieces for the team that kind of helped them win the Western Conference this past season. Our fourth segment, we'll be talking about the Oilers general manager, Ken Holland. He stepped down. We're going to take a look at his tenure and see what moves that he did specifically that led the Edmonton Oilers to a Stanley Cup final and why he is stepping down after they went to a Stanley Cup final. So that is our 5 segments on the night. As always, if you guys want to become a bigger part of the show, help support out the GSMC Hockey Podcast in more ways than you guys already do. Use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. It goes a long way to support all the creators here at the GSMC Sports Network and is greatly appreciated. Sorry. So as always, sorry, I have a little hoarse in my throat. As always, we're gonna get right into the NHL Awards Recap, the first segment of the night. This award show was. So here's the thing about this award show. There was a lot that I was questioning on why we gave the awards to certain individuals. We'll get into all of that. But to start things out, we had a lot of them were already announced, so we'll get into the ones that were already announced, and then we'll get into the ones that were announced last night. Mark Messier NHL Leadership Award went to Jacob Trouba, New York Rangers, defenseman, captain. I think Mark Messier is the only one that decides on that, so went to the captain of the Rangers, as you kind of would expect. But we already knew about that one. The Lady Byng Memorial Trophy, we already knew JioSaavn won that one. Runners-up were Elias Pettersson and Austin Matthews. I believe that goes to the best forward plus... No, it goes... Lady Byng, I forget what the Lady Byng is for. The NHL awards are all over the place. But Anders Lee wins the King Clancy Memorial Trophy. Jim Neal won the General Manager of the Year Award. We already knew that one. Jack Adams Award went to Rock Toshe. I believe that one was announced last night, if I'm not mistaken. The Vancouver Canucks coach outlast the Nashville Predators and Winnipeg Jets coach to win the Jack Adams. A great job in Vancouver, leading them to the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. Kind of from nowhere, the Vancouver Canucks have been disappointing, have been pretty bland for the greater part of the last decade. Now they have a really good team around Rock Toshe, and you could expect them to compete for a little while now coming up. Next was the Frank J. Selke. It was Alexander Barkov, as we already knew. He is the best defensive forward in the NHL. This award is kind of the Patrice Bergeron Award. However, I wouldn't be shocked if in 5 or 6 years' time we're looking at, Alexander Barkov won his 4th Selke in the last 6 years or something like that. Like he truly is that difference maker on both ends of the ice. 200-foot game. A guy that was drafted today can maybe challenge. Macklin Celebrini is a fantastic defensive forward. That's kind of what stands out for Macklin, and why he kind of went number 1 overall. So we'll see if he's able to challenge Alexander Barkov. But I do believe that Barkov kind of stands alone with that. Bill Masterton went to Connor Ingram, with runner-ups being Frederick Anderson and Oliver Shillington. You have these are all teams. The Vezina went to Connor Hellebuyck. This was announced last night. This one was a little interesting, as really Connor Hellebuyck or Sergei Bobrovsky could have won this one, and I honestly don't know if I would have any problems with that. Connor Hellebuyck was second in the league with in save percentage, just trailing Anthony Stolarz, but Anthony Stolarz was the backup for the Florida Panthers, so Connor Hellebuyck led all starting goaltenders with save percentage at .921, and then goals against average was led by Sergei Bobrovsky on starting goalies at .237, and Connor Hellebuyck was right behind him at .239. Could have given this one to anybody, really. I know the awards are voted on before the postseason. However, I would not have been shocked for people to vote Sergei Bobrovsky. He did have such a fantastic postseason, and I know they are voted on before the postseason. However, that might be so fresh in my mind that I think that it should have gone to Sergei Bobrovsky, the Vezina, if that makes sense. But Connor Hellebuyck definitely deserved it. Had a horrific postseason, though. 540 goals against average in the postseason. That's a shocker. That is disappointing. So he was able to have a really great regular season. So congratulations on Connor Hellebuyck for winning the Vezina. It's a very special trophy to win. I believe this is Connor Hellebuck's second Vezina, if I'm not mistaken. I want to make sure that I am correct in saying that. But I do believe that it was his second Vezina. Let me make sure if I can. I don't think I'll be able to see, unfortunately. However, yeah, I don't think I can find that out this quickly. But for Connor Hellebuyck, it is a fantastic award to win. Very prestigious goaltending award. It is the MVP of goaltenders. So congratulations to Connor Hellebuyck on that. As I mentioned, Sergei Bobrovsky and Thatcher Demko were the runner-ups in this category. So very impressive. Connor Hellebuyck's such a fantastic goaltender. So do expect that to happen with a man of his caliber. Calder Trophy going to Connor Bedard. Nobody was shocked. We knew that Connor Bedard was winning the Calder in January, honestly. Did he lead the Blackhawks in points? No, he did lead the Blackhawks in points. Man, that's insane. He led all rookies in goals, assists, and points, and only played in 68 games because I think it was a broken bone in his face. I forget. I think it was like in his cheek. So he did have to miss a few games this season, 14 to be exact. But in the games that he played in, almost a point per game player. Connor Bedard, we knew that he was going to take the league by storm, and he absolutely did. So congratulations to him for winning the Calder. Something that Sidney Crosby never did, something that Connor McDavid never did, something that Wayne Gretzky never did. So, I mean, the Calder is a difficult trophy to win. So congratulations to him. Ted Lindsay Award went to Nathan MacKinnon. This is the NHLPA voted on MVP, so the players themselves vote for the winner of the Ted Lindsay, and it went to Nathan MacKinnon. So that was the first inclination that he was going to win the Hart Trophy. I talked about the Hart Trophy in one of my segments. I believe it was about a month or 2 months ago. And I looked at these guys' season, and I said that it was going to be between Nikita Kucherov and Connor McDavid. Turns out I was wrong. And I'm so shocked about that. Like, honestly, Nathan MacKinnon wins the Hart Trophy as well. So he takes home the Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy. Looking at just counting numbers, I thought Nikita Kucherov was a lock to win this. I really had Nikita Kucherov winning the Hart Trophy. 144 points for Nikita Kucherov, leading all skaters, had 4 more points than Nathan MacKinnon in the regular season. He had 100 assists. Hold on. He had 100 assists, 44 goals, plus 8. Nikita Kucherov was fantastic in this regular season. This is probably the best regular season we've seen from him. And in 1 game less played than Nathan MacKinnon. But Nathan MacKinnon, with his 51 goals, granted, that's only 7 more goals than Nikita Kucherov. And Nikita Kucherov had an 100 assist season, only the 5th all time. Him and Connor McDavid making both having 100 assist seasons. Maybe this is why I thought that one of those two were going to win it, is because they both had an 100 assist season, which is so rare. It's Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, and then those two. Now, it doesn't happen often. I mean, guys don't get 100 assists in a season. It's extremely difficult to have 100 points in a season. Only 9 100-point seasons this entire year. So for Nikita Kucherov, I think that might have been a little bit of a snub, in my opinion. I probably would have voted for Nikita Kucherov to win the Hart Memorial Trophy. But Nathan MacKinnon gets it. Nathan MacKinnon does deserve one. This is his first Hart of his career, playing in a difficult time to get them. So it does make sense. But those are the awards. I probably would give the Hart to Nikita Kucherov. I would probably give the Ted Lindsay to Nikita Kucherov. The Norris, I didn't mention the Norris. The Norris went to Quinn Hughes, defenseman from Vancouver, after a fantastic season. Runners-up were Roman Josi and Cale Makar. Roman Josi seems like he is so close every single season, but doesn't get it. Quinn Hughes had 2 more points than Cale Makar in 5 more games played, though. But it's really the plus-minus between the two of them. Plus 38 for Quinn Hughes, plus 15 for Cale Makar. That's really the difference that you make between the two of them. Quinn Hughes, I think, deserved to win the James Norris. I felt like that was kind of a lock. Roman Josi, not too far off. He had over a point per game, 85 points in 82 games played on a Nashville Predators team that wasn't too impressive this year. So, impressive from the defenseman of the season. Evan Bouchard was also probably close with 64 assists in 81 games, playing on, we saw it in the postseason how explosive Evan Bouchard really can be. So, congratulations to all those guys. Winning awards for the NHL is always a great deal for anybody that wins awards. So, congratulations to everybody. And we are going to take our first break of the night, and when I get back, we will be talking about the trades that are happening before the draft, because there are a lot to talk about.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're back with our second segment of the night, talking pre-draft trades and giving just a quick roundup on the moves that happened before the draft. As we're going into this offseason, a lot of things are happening, unfolding right before our eyes. And the one thing that did happen, June 26th, is when we'll go back with these trades, because I think I talked about them up until that point. You have the Chicago Blackhawks acquire, in a trade with the Vancouver Canucks, they acquire Ilya Mikheyev, Sam Lafferty, and a 4th-round pick in the 2027 NHL drafts for a 2nd-round pick in the 2027 draft. So if you're the Chicago Blackhawks, you get a forward and a defenseman, if I'm not mistaken, and a 4th-round pick in the 2027 NHL draft they got a 2nd-round pick and they traded away a 4th-round pick. That's what it was. I thought I was saying that wrong. I did have it backwards. So they got a second round pick from Vancouver in return for a fourth round pick. They also, it's a cap dump. This move is a cap dump for Vancouver. They trade away Ilya Mikheyev and Sam Lafferty so that they could clear up space. Why did they clear up space? Well, they have free agents that they wanted to re-sign, and we'll talk about that in the third segment as they do re-sign 2 key pieces, and they have a third one still in the wings. However, I don't think that progress is happening on a deal with that third piece, but we'll get into all that in the third segment of the night. So for the Blackhawks, adding depth if they want it. For the Canucks, being able to re-sign some pieces. I believe Ilya Mikheyev and Sam Lafferty are both expiring, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, let me make sure that I get that right here. I think that both of them are expiring. So Sam Lafferty is expiring. Ilya Mikheyev has 2 more years left on his deal of $4 million. But both of them count towards their cap right now. So they needed to trade them away before the re-signing phase so that they are able to re-sign their guys, because they would have moved. They still count for their cap penalty up until free agency, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's a good deal if you are the Vancouver Canucks, and it's a great deal if you're the Chicago Blackhawks. The Blackhawks have $30 million to work with. They don't need to re-sign really anybody if they don't want to. They could just kind of use their cap, let teams use them, get a second round pick in a few years for it. Why not? It's a good trade for the Chicago Blackhawks, and it is a great trade for the Vancouver Canucks because it freed up some room. So I would give A- for the Blackhawks. I would give a B+ for the Vancouver Canucks. Both teams do well in that trade. I would just give Chicago Blackhawks just a slight edge in it. Next is a strictly a jump up in this year's draft. The San Jose Sharks acquire the Sabres first rounder this year, which was number 11, for the number 14th overall pick and a second round pick in this year's draft. San Jose Sharks move up to number 11, and we'll talk about who they got at number 11 because I think it is a prospect that I loved. He was in my top 10 of my mock draft, if you guys do recall that. A little glimpse of who they did get for that number 11. But we'll talk about that in my live draft reaction, talking about whether that trade was good for them, because it was... I think that they did win this trade with who the Sabres got at 14 was not somebody I really liked in particular. Next trade, we're talking about Andrew Mangiapane to the Washington Capitals for a second round pick in the 2025 NHL draft. This was a weird move. I'm talking about the Capitals this offseason, and they're doing a lot of head scratching moves that I don't understand what they're doing. Like, honestly, they have now 6 forwards that are making over $5 million, along with John Carlson that's making $8 million. You get Andrew Mangiapane, who is on contract for 1 more year at 5.8. They're trying to win next season, but do they really think that this is a cup contending team? I feel like they're putting all their chips in the middle to get a second round exit. Like, this is what this team seems like to me. I feel like they are a good enough team to compete in the Metro, and they're a good enough team to get like second or third in the Metro. But look, it's Alexander Ovechkin, who is 38 years old. He will be 39 years old when the season starts. Then you have Pierre-Luc Dubois, who is making $8.5 million for the next forever 7 years. Pierre-Luc Dubois making $8.5 million for the next 7 years for 40 points. Is that what we're expecting out of him? I don't think that that's too far off. If not, I think that might be exactly what he puts up. So I don't like that. I don't like the Pierre-Luc Dubois contract, and I don't think that he is particularly a top 6 forward. Then you have a 30-year-old Tom Wilson, who probably is the best piece in this entire team, and when Tom Wilson is the best piece in your entire team, that's not great. Tom Wilson had I don't know if there it is. Tom Wilson had 35 points in 74 games played. Minus 19 on a playoff team. Like, that's not great. So that's your top line. That's your left wing, center, right wing right there. Then you have Andrew Mangiapane, who's a winger. TJ Oshie will probably play out on the right, and then Dylan Strome will play in the center of that second line. Andrew Mangiapane is the best piece of that line. Then you have a 37, going to be 38 at the end of next season, TJ Oshie. Then you have a Dylan Strome who has not really produced too much in the NHL. Then you have Alexei Protas, Sonny Milano, Nick Dowd, Michael Scarboza, other pieces like Connor McMichael, Nicholas Kubel-Aubier, and they're $2 million over the cap right now. And then their defensive core is atrocious, in my opinion. John Carlson, which is a 34, going to be 35 at the end of next year. Rasmus Sandin, who's not that great of a defenseman, making 4.6 for the next 5 years. Nick Jensen, who's not that great of a defenseman. Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who can produce but not too fantastic. Then like Ethan Bear. Then for goalies, all you have is Charlie Lindgren on your entire roster. Look, the Capitals are doing it's so weird because it seems like they really feel like their prospect pool is so deep because they won back-to-back Calder trophies, so they think that they don't need to set up for the future because they already have a future right now. But truly, I don't think that this team is competing anywhere near the level that they expect to next season. I think on paper, this Washington Capitals team will just be underperforming. This year, it was the 8th team in the Eastern Conference, barely squeaking into the playoffs. And I think they got worse. Like, the deals that they made, you would expect them to get better, but Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think, makes any team worse. And you gave up Darcy Kemper for him, which could have been a good goaltender for you. Andrew Mangiapane, I think, is a fantastic winger. I do like that trade for them if they are going for win now mode, but I just don't think that he fits with the team right now. Then you have Ivan Miroshnichenko, who is not, he isn't developing to the level that you want him to. You have Hendrix Lapierre, who is not developing to the level you wanted him to be. You have other prospects like Dylan McIlrath, or sorry, he's not a prospect. You have other prospects like Vincent Irio, who's 21 years old, who's not developing like you want him to. Yeah, I think that this Washington Capitals team is digging themselves a hole that it's going to take a long time to get out of, especially when you have a guy under contract making $8.5 million for the next 7 years who's a 40-point scorer. The Capitals look like they're in some hard times going forward, so we'll see how that plays out during the season. I don't think that they're going to be particularly good, which is good because I'm a Blue Jackets fan and they're in the Metro. It's all good if they're bad. But 39-year-old Ovi might not have what it takes to carry this team anymore. Next, the Montreal Canadiens moved up in the draft. They moved up to 21st overall for the 25th overall pick, a 2nd and a 7th round pick in this year's draft. That's just a pick swap right there that they get a good prospect for, and the LA Kings still have yet to pick. Or, sorry, I misspoke. It's the 26th overall pick. And the LA Kings have yet to pick, so we'll see who they get with that. I'm also seeing, this is a sidetrack. I'm seeing the Anaheim Ducks logo for the first time, their new one, like actually in action, and I'm seeing the LA Kings old/new logo for the first time in action, and I love them. I actually love them. I think those redesigns were fantastic, but that's a story for a different day. Going forward with the NHL trades today, there was a trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets. They traded forward Alexander Texier for a 4th-round pick. Alexander Texier put up 72 points in his 201 career games with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Helped them a lot in 2019 in that sweep against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but has not been the same guy since. He got injured in 2021. Took the entire he got injured in 2022. Took the entire season 22 to 23 off, and then this season he was back, but he underperformed after spending an entire year in the Switzerland Hockey League. It didn't seem like he was up to par with the NHL standard, and it looked like his career has stagnated. I do have an Alexander Texier jersey in my closet, so this one hurt a little bit for me personally, but hey, that's what happens in sports. Your favorite players get traded all the time. And then today, during the draft, the Minnesota Wild trade up one spot with the Philadelphia Flyers for their 13th overall pick and a third-round pick to get the 12th overall pick. So in my fifth segment tonight, we'll be talking all about the first round, seeing what moves were made here, who the teams got with the moves that they made, and whether or not they were good moves. So that'll wrap it up for my second segment, pre-draft trades roundup. When I come back from my second break of the night, we will be talking about the Canucks re-signing some key pieces.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we're getting into the third segment of the night, talking about the Canucks re-signing some key pieces. So we talked about the trade that they made. They traded away Ilya Mikheyev, Sam Lafferty, clearing up about $7 million, or $6.5 million in cap space, with $4 million of it being Ilya Mikheyev and $2.5 million being Sam Lafferty. In return, they get a fourth-round pick. They also have to give up a second-round pick to make this cap dump, because it is a clear cap dump move, and no team's going to let you do that for free. So they were able to re-sign Dakota Joshua, who was a fantastic forward for them this past season. They re-signed him to $3.25 million for the next 4 years, the 28-year-old forward out of Ohio State. Played very well this season. This is only his second season really consistently being in the NHL. Last year, 23 points in 79 games played. This year, 32 points in 63 games played with 18 goals. It's a fantastic season for a third-line forward. That's kind of what you want to see from your third line. So very impressive from Dakota Joshua, who isn't really known for his scoring, really known for his defensive style of play. So that's a good deal for a depth piece that proved that he is a good depth piece. He is now fifth in their contracts, or of their annual AAV of forwards. I believe he's around 8th or 9th overall, which is really where he is on his team. Makes sense. They also re-signed Tyler Myers, who made it very clear that he wanted to play for this team again next season. Tyler Myers, 34-year-old defenseman. He is 6'8". Huge guy, 230 pounds, 6'8", 230. Kind of looking like Anton Silyev, who we'll talk about in the fifth segment, the draft prospect that went 10th overall tonight. Tyler Myers signed 3 years, $3 million for $9 million total for the next 3 years. He has been on the Vancouver Canucks for 5 seasons now. Last year, 24 assists in 77 games played, but it's a plus 16. You don't get him for his playmaker ability. You don't get him for his offensive ability. You get him because he's 6'8", and that's invaluable. Getting that size on the blue line, that's fantastic. They get that. It is an impressive. It's impressive that they were able to get these two guys, because it looked like the Vancouver Canucks were in cap, cap down under. I can't say that word on the stream, but you can infer what I'm talking about here. So they're able to re-sign two guys that they really needed to. Now they're looking at Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov. Nikita Zadorov has made it clear he will not re-sign for the Vancouver Canucks. For whatever the reason being, it is clear that he won't be a Vancouver Canuck next season. He wants to test the free agency market. where he probably will sign around $5-6 million contract. So it's good on him. Nikita Zadorov will get paid this offseason to be a, second line defenseman for any team. He can very well fit in right there. But Elias Lindholm, it seems like they made a lot of room in cap space, and it seemed like they wanted to re-sign Elias Lindholm to a big contract. Of course, Elias Lindholm, the forward that they acquired from the Calgary Flames just this offseason, or sorry, not just this offseason, but just at the trade deadline this season. In 12 games played for the Vancouver Canucks, or in 26 games played for the Vancouver Canucks, only 12 points on the season, a -6, but in his 13 playoff games, had 10 points. You get Elias Lindholm for his upside. He had 82 points in 82 games played, 42 goals in 2021-2022. That was the year that Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau and Elias Lindholm was a fantastic line for the Calgary Flames, probably one of the best lines in hockey. But 82 points in 82 games played, 47 points in 56 games played, 54 points in 70 games played, 78 points in 81 games played. This guy is a scorer in the NHL. Has always kind of been productive wherever he's been, since he's been on the Calgary Flames. Wasn't too productive on the Carolina Hurricanes in the mid-2010s. However, when he got to the Flames, became a very pivotal piece for the Calgary Flames, and since they start their rebuild, had to get rid of him. But now it leaves the Vancouver Canucks with a lot of money. They have $12 million. They do still need to re-sign Arturs Shilovs, but I believe that won't be a problem. It's an RFA goalie. I can't imagine him wanting too much. So you have $10 million to work with in free agency. Steven Stamkos is out there. You could still sign Elias Lindholm. Maybe if Sam Reinhart goes through the cracks of the Florida Panthers, you can attract him to be a Vancouver Canuck. They have a lot to work with. We'll see what they decide to do, but they can go out and get a huge piece that could really help this core. Really, from the start of the season, you're not losing anybody. From the trade deadline, you might be losing Nikita Zadorov. You might be losing Elias Lindholm. You did lose Sam Lafferty, Ilya Mikheyev. However, those are pieces you're willing to give up if you're going to get huge piece back in free agency. So I expect to see the Vancouver Canucks be a pivotal buyer in the free agency market. Maybe get one of the bigger free agent names out there, as this free agency class can be, it can be very good. It could be very. You could go out and get somebody huge. I saw reports today that Steven Stamkos got offered a $3 million contract by the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's disrespectful. That guy's coming off of an $8.5 million or a $6.5 million contract, scoring 40 goals this season. Yeah, he's 34, but man, $3 million for him, that's disrespectful. For a guy that got you 2 cups, come on. Gotta pay him at least 4 to 5, right? But they could definitely go out and get I believe Jake Gensel is in talks with a contract extension in Carolina. I saw in the ballpark of a $9 million per year deal for 8 years. That might not be completely true, but that's what I saw, which would be insane. But Sam Reinhart will definitely want around $10 million. Teuvo Teravainen could want somewhere around $8 to $9 million. You also have players like Brady Shea, who's out there, Jonathan Marchessault, who's out there, Vladimir Tarasenko, Alexander Wenberg. A lot of guys that can produce on this team. If they want to get 2 forwards instead of just the one top end forward, there's guys like Tyler Toffoli and Victor Arvidsson that are going to be out there. Jack Roslovic. There's a lot of guys that teams could really make a splash on here. This free agency class is one of the strongest ones that I've seen in recent memory, so I can't wait to see where these names go. But for the Vancouver Canucks, they do lock up their core, and now what we're looking at with this team is a very strong forward group with a good defense behind them. We're looking at JT Miller, Elias Lindholm, Brock Besser. That's probably their first line. Then you probably go with a Connor Garland, insert center Niels Hoglander, second line maybe, third line being Dakota Joshua, Teddy Bluger, and then maybe Podkolzin, I believe that's how you pronounce that name, and then the fourth line, Philip DiGiuseppe, Niels Oman, Pia Suter could also be on that fourth line. We'll see what they decide to do here, but I do think that they could go out and add 2 forwards and make this team a real cup contender, and it'll be interesting to see. Coming up, they do have Jonathan Lekkerimäki, who I believe could be ready for next season. We've been waiting for him to really make a next step, and this could definitely be the year that he does it. You have, on the defensive side, not too many big names coming up for your defense prospects, but I don't think you need it because your defense is pretty good, and you have 6 defensemen under contract. You have Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, Carson Soucy, Tyler Myers, Noah Juleson, and Mark Friedman. They might want to improve on Mark Friedman or Noah Juleson, but that's a good defensive core. That's some good forwards. This team's going to be good again next season. They were fantastic last year. Some question marks with the team during this offseason, as it looked like they weren't going to have enough cap for everybody, but they made some room, worked with the Blackhawks. Now this team's ready for next year. We'll see what they do, but I think that their window is definitely now, and this team is a very, very good team. So we'll see what they do in free agency. They are probably one of the biggest teams that I'm looking at to see what they do in free agency, as I think it's clear that they go out and get a big name. So that'll wrap it up for our third segment of the night, talking about the Canucks re-signing key pieces. When I come back, we're going to be talking about the Oilers general manager Ken Holland stepping down out of kind of nowhere as his contract does expire.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we're going into our fourth segment of the night, talking about the Oilers general manager, Ken Holland, stepping down. They just went on a cup run, and your general manager is stepping down. This was not out of the blue. His contract ran up, and we kind of all saw this coming because they haven't re-signed him. Re-signed him. But I am still very shocked here. I'll read some of the statements that he made as he did step down over the past 5 seasons as general manager. This is from a statement by the team on Thursday. Over the past 5 seasons as general manager, Ken has not only built the Edmonton Oilers into one of NHL's best teams, but he has also established a deeply rooted foundation of success and a culture of winning that will continue well into the future. Jackson said in a statement Thursday, "Thanks in large part for Ken's outstanding work, Edmonton has become a destination city for players around the National Hockey League." Holland's future with the Oilers had been in question for several months, only to have the speculation intensify throughout the team's playoff run. This was truly a shock. I don't think that there has been anything. I don't think that there's been anything that's come out from Ken Holland. Anything that he said about this matter. But I am really shocked. This is a general manager that took a team to the Stanley Cup Finals, was one win away from getting a Stanley Cup, and now he steps down. He's out of contract, but I mean, he put together a winning team. I do have his trade history pulled up here, and we're gonna go through from 2019 the trades that he made when he stepped in. So his very first trade was he looked at the Milan Lucic contract and said, that can't happen. We can't be having that. So went out and traded Milan Lucic and a 3rd-round pick to the Calgary Flames for James Neal. Those two teams do not trade within each other, or trade within themselves. So that one was a shock. And then immediately traded John Marino for a 6th-round pick. Got Mike Green for Kyle Brodziak. Traded Sam Gagner for Andres Athanasiou, who was a great forward for the Edmonton Oilers for a couple of years. They got Tyler Ennis for a 5th-round pick. That was a good defenseman for them for a few years. Moving on, they got the first piece for this for this Stanley Cup Finals core in Dmitry Kulikov. They gave up a 4th-round pick for Dmitry Kulikov, who became a bottom pairing defenseman for a Stanley Cup Finals team. So that's an impressive trade for the Edmonton Oilers. You got Duncan Keith from the Chicago Blackhawks in return in a trade with Caleb Jones. They traded back in the draft in 2021. Here's another piece for this Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup Final team. They got Warren Foegele for Ethan Bear. That's a fantastic trade for the Edmonton Oilers. Warren Foegele played a pivotal role on this team, on this Edmonton Oilers team for their top end, on their first line and second line in the games that they needed to win in the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's a fantastic trade for Ethan Bear, who's not even on the Carolina Hurricanes anymore. I misspoke earlier. I meant to say Brett Kulak they got, by the way. I said Dmitry Kulikov, who actually played for the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final. Moving forward, though, for the going into their next piece that they got for the Stanley Cup Finals, Matthias Ekholm, he got in February of 2023, pretty much trade deadline time in 2023. They were able to also re-sign Matthias Ekholm. They got him in return for Tyson Barrie and a 1st-round pick, basically, to the Nashville Predators, who turned into Tanner Molendyk, who has still not broken through for the Nashville Predators. So we'll see how that trade really looks in a couple years' time with draft picks. That's kind of what you have to do. But right now, it looks like a fantastic deal for Edmonton Oilers because Matthias Ekholm was a top pairing defender on their playoff team. So very impressive there. Moving forward now, you have this season in the 3-way trade that happened at the deadline. They got Sam Carrick and Adam Henrique, who both produced for them in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but Adam Henrique being a very key part of that Stanley Cup final, scoring a couple of very important goals in the Cup final there. Adam Henrique was a fantastic penalty killing guy as well, and I do believe that they have Adam Henrique for another year at least. Or no, Adam Henrique is a UFA this summer. I apologize. But the Edmonton Oilers didn't build this team through trades, but even in the trades that they made, it has helped to build the team. Getting Adam Henrique, getting Matthias Ekholm, getting Brett Kulak. It's pieces that they needed to make this run happen. They're depth pieces, but you don't want to go out and get this huge name in a trade. That doesn't ever really end well for the team getting the huge name. So the team built a lot through the draft, and a lot of the draft picks were done before Ken Holland's reign. However, since 2019, going out and get Dylan Holloway, who was a fantastic player for them. Going out, they signed Zach Hyman, who was a 50-goal scorer for them this season. That's a fantastic free agency signing. They got production out of Evan Bouchard. That wasn't a draft pick by Ken Holland, but they did put the coaching staff around him that developed him into the player that he is today. Stuart Skinner is a fantastic signing for Ken Holland. They also, I'm trying to just think off the top of my head because I don't have their lines pulled up right now. But Matthias Janmark was a fantastic piece for them this season, along with Nugent Hopkins, McDavid, and Draisaitl were before Ken Holland's reign. But the depth pieces around the team, of course, it is the McDavid, it is Draisaitl, it is Nugent Hopkins that are the big names for this team. But the depth pieces around them were really what got the job done in the Stanley Cup Final in the big moments. It was Matthias Janmark that scored the only goal in the Game 7. It was Matthias Janmark that got the first goal in Game 4, if I'm not mistaken. I know McDavid getting 8 points in those two games helps a lot as well. However, Warren Foegele getting the goal from Leon Draisaitl in that Game 6 to open the scoring for the Edmonton Oilers. They put a team around, and Ken Holland put a team around to help build up the Edmonton Oilers. So Ken Holland now, what is the future looking like for Ken Holland? He is still in his 60s, if I'm not mistaken, so he could definitely take over another franchise as a general manager. He was the general manager for the Red Wings and the Tampa Bay Lightning, if I'm not mistaken. Both not the best reigns. The Red Wings were really bad during his reign, and that wasn't really that was just the timeline of the Red Wings at that time. They were just looking, to get better, I would say. So I don't blame Ken Holland, but he did make some bad moves in Detroit, and he did also make some bad moves in Edmonton. As I'm gonna, I talk about the Darnell Nurse contract so often, and I'm going to talk about it again. Darnell Nurse is a horrific contract, and the extension that they gave him is not good. Holland was the one that gave Nurse an 8-year, $74 million deal. That's $9.25 million per year. He's the 8th highest paid defenseman in the NHL, and he doesn't deserve the contract. And that's going to really hurt when they're trying to extend Leon Draisaitl, when they're trying to extend Evan Bouchard, and when they need to re-sign Connor McDavid in a couple years' time. Jack Campbell is another horrible contract. They were trying to sign Jacob Markstrom, but he decided to go with the New Jersey Devils, or sorry, not the New Jersey Devils, the Calgary Flames. So they were kind of left in their backup option. So they go with Jack Campbell, a 5-year, $25 million deal that's still hurting them today. They're going to need to buy out Jack Campbell probably because he just is not producing for their team. He was not on their playoff roster as they decided to go with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard for the playoffs. And you also have the Zach Kassian debacle for the Edmonton Oilers. However, as I mentioned, Ken Holland did make really good moves. I talked about the bad, but I'm going to end it with the good. Zach Hyman, that might be one of the best free agent signings we've seen. 54 goals in a season is unlike anything that we've seen from Zach Hyman ever. He's on a 7-year, $38.5 million deal, too, which is a pretty good contract for the Edmonton Oilers. Matthias Ekholm is a fantastic deal. He also was the one that re-signed Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to a very small deal. He locked him up at a $5.125 million cap hit, which Ryan Nugent-Hopkins definitely could get $6 or $7 million, maybe even. No, he wouldn't get 8, but like 7.25 isn't too far off for a first line winger that can put up 80 points in a season. At 5.125 is a very fantastic deal for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and he also got Chris Knobloch on that, who was a mastermind, really rejuvenating that franchise kind of from the ground that they started this season. They were 31st at one time this season. They decided to go with Chris Knobloch and really did turn it around. So Ken Holland is no longer the general manager for the Edmonton Oilers. This is going to be one of the most wanted and desired positions in all of hockey. They just went to a Stanley Cup final. You're taking over a core that is in win now mode, and as we saw this year, can definitely win now. You're also getting Connor McDavid. You get to watch Connor McDavid for 82 games. You kidding me? That's fantastic. So Ken Holland no longer the general manager. We'll see if he goes anywhere or if he just goes into retirement. That might be a likely choice as well. But that'll wrap it up for our fourth segment of the night. When I get back from my fourth and final break of the night, we will be talking about my live draft reaction as the first round is wrapping up. Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're on to our fifth and final segment of the night, talking about my live draft reaction. It is my favorite night in hockey. I love talking about prospects. I love talking about the drafts. It doesn't get me more excited than the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, but it does get me more excited than like a second round matchup in a Stanley Cup playoff. I do love the NHL draft, seeing these guys, dreams come true, seeing these guys that I do scout for, months prior, finally get, to come to fruition, and all the hard work that I do that goes into the scouting, seeing how it unveils, as it is almost always wrong, but I did do a pretty good job this year, and I'm kind of proud of that one. But going into this, it's Macklin Celebrini that's the number 1 overall pick. We all knew that it was going to be Macklin Celebrini being the number 1 overall pick. Center out of Boston University, the best two-way player in this entire draft, has very fantastic hands to go along, and a really great skater too. He does also have a good shot that helps him out a lot as well. Macklin Celebrini was the number 1 overall pick. We all knew that. Next was Artem Levshinov, freshman out of Michigan State. Big Ten Player of the Year out of Michigan State, or Big Ten Defenseman of the Year, not Player of the Year. Player of the Year went to a Michigan forward, if I'm not mistaken. I think it did go to a Michigan forward, or went to Jimmy Snuggerud. It might be Gavin Brindley that got Big Ten Player of the Year. But, anyways, Artem Levshinov, Big Ten Defenseman of the Year, fantastic. He does have a very great offensive mindset, but does play a good defensive game too. He is also he has a pretty good build for a defenseman in the NHL. I think he'll be able to help out the Chicago Blackhawks a lot. Next was the Anaheim Ducks, and I saw a report a couple of days ago, and you guys can check the short that I did on the YouTube channel earlier today. I called it. I said Beckett Sinek could definitely make his way up to number 3 overall. He didn't even know that, and I did. I called it. I said that he could make his way up to number 3. I said it was either going to be Z Byam or Beckett Sinek, and it ended up being, I might be butchering his name, but I've heard like 5 different pronunciations of his name. But he is the number 3 overall pick to the Anaheim Ducks. The winger adds, their forward group is really good, but they also have Pavel Minchikov on the D. On their defensive line. So I think the Anaheim Ducks are really set up. I think there's a couple more years of them being bad, but I think they're on their way up. The Blue Jackets had the number 4 pick, another top 5 pick for the Blue Jackets. It's been like every single year since 2021, since they got Kent Johnson at 5th overall, that they've had a top 5 pick. Kent Johnson at 5th overall, David Jiricek at 6th overall, Adam Fantilli at 3 overall. Now they're adding Caden Lindstrom to that core. Caden Lindstrom, 6'3", center, 225. That guy is a huge body, going to be a fantastic player in the NHL one day. Had back plate separation that held him out for half the season of the WHL season, but he looks healthy, looks good to go, and he will probably play for the Blue Jackets next season. Now the Blue Jackets down the middle for the foreseeable future has Adam Fantilli, Caden Lindstrom, Cole Sillinger, and Dmitry Voronkov. That's a pretty good forward, or that's a pretty good center core with a lot of big bodies there. Dmitry Voronkov's a huge guy, and Caden Lindstrom is huge as well. Then probably the steal of the draft at number 5 overall, Ivan Demidov, probably the most skilled forward of this draft, going to the Montreal Canadiens. And through the first 4 picks, through the first 5 picks, I got 4 of them right. The only one I got wrong was Beckett Sinek, but I did say that he was going to get drafted 3rd overall. I just didn't have any confidence in actually predicting that. So I had Z Byam at 3rd overall. But I don't feel bad with getting that one wrong. Next, I had Silyev on my board. He ended up dropping all the way down to 10th. He dropped all the way down to 10th, was Anton Silyev. I had him up that high because he fantastic, or he is a huge body. He's 6'7". He has a fantastic frame. That's what I was going to say. But it ended up being TJ Ginla here. Utah Hockey Club could have really gone anywhere. They go TJ Ginla, who has the highest floor, as I've heard a lot of scouts say, in this draft. Jerome McGinley's son. I mean, you can't go wrong with getting that genetics on your team. So TJ Ginla goes 6th overall, goes 5 picks higher than his dad went. His dad went 11th overall, so TJ Ginla at 6. Then it was Carter Yakimchuk, the second defenseman off the board, the first of like kind of the rest defensemen. I had this as a little bit of a reach. I had Yakimchuk as kind of the 4th or 5th best defenseman of this draft. 4th or 5th best defenseman of this draft, but him, Zane Parekh, Anton Silyev, Sam Dickinson, those guys could have gone anywhere, and they ended up going pretty subsequently to each other. So it's Carter Yakimchuk at 7, Berkeley Cannon at number 8. I think that is a fantastic pick for the Seattle Kraken. They add a center to match up with Matty Beniers now. That's going to be a pretty good team, the Seattle Kraken will be. Zane Parekh goes number 9 to the Calgary Flames. 10th overall went Anton Silyev to the New Jersey Devils, who look like to be in win now mode. They try to trade away number 10 overall, unable to find any buyers for it, so they just stick and draft a pretty fantastic defensive prospect out of the KHL. Sam Dickinson goes 11th, the London Knight from the OHL. Z Byam finally goes at 12th. This was our first trade of this draft. It was the Minnesota Wild trading up 1, and I knew it was going to be for Z Byam. I had him at number 3rd overall. He ends up dropping all the way down to 12. I had this as the steal of the draft. Z Byam is a fantastic defenseman out of Denver University. I probably, honestly, I think in my grades I had him above Artem Levshinov as the best defenseman in this draft. So I loved how he played in Denver University, so congratulations to the Minnesota Wild for getting that steal. And then it was the Flyers that got Jet Lushenko, who I had at 28th overall. No, I had Jet Lushenko at 25th overall. He ends up going 12, so 13 spots above where I had him. A little bit of a reach for me. However, Jet, I could see the upside. He's a very fast skater. I just worry about his size a little bit. Next, Konsta Helenius, center from Finland. I had him at 14. He goes 14th overall to the Buffalo Sabres. They end up trading down with the San Jose Sharks, who drafted Sam Dickinson at 11 to get Konsta Helenius at number 14. I had Dickinson at 11. I had Helenius at 14. So, honestly, both teams in that trade did well. Got the player that I expected them to get. Next was Michael Brandsegg-Njugård. I had him at 16. He goes 15th overall. That's a good prospect. I actually had him at 15. He does go 15. I had that one correct as well. That's a good prospect. No real problems with it. Next was Adam Juracek at 16 to the St. Louis Blues. Now, this is the one I have a problem with. Adam Juracek had 1 point all year. I know he's a defenseman, and I know you don't draft defensemen because of their offensive production, but he had 1 point all season in granted, I think he played in a professional league, but 1 point all season is pretty rough. I had him at 28th, and I still feel confident. I think this is a reach by the St. Louis Blues. I don't think that he is as good as a first-round talent. I had him at 28th because that was more predictive. Honestly, I think I would have had him in the 3rd round if we're going off of what I felt like their talent is, which I could be a little bit harsh, but I don't believe Adam Juracek is even close to being NHL ready. But I digress. Next, pick 17 to the Capitals. It's Tariq Parashak. I had Tariq Parashak at I'm at 24th overall. He goes 17th overall to the Capitals. So jumping up about 7 spots. That makes sense. For where we're at in the draft here, it just kind of can go any direction. Next is Sasha Boisvert out of the OHL, if I'm not mistaken, maybe WHL, but Sasha Boisvert I had at 21. He ends up going to 18, right around where I had him. Next, Trevor Connolly, 19. I had him at 18, drops 1 spot from my ranking, but pretty close. Cole Eiserman, this is the fall of the draft. He goes 20th. I had him up to 7. He drops 13 spots in my ranking. I talked about Z Byam being a drop-off here, but it's really Cole Eiserman that got kind of he fell a lot. The the highest scoring player of the United States National Team Development Program history, drops to 20th overall. That could be a steal from the Islanders, but with so many general managers, taking a flyer on him, it seems like that there's a little bit more that I just don't know. Next is Michael Haig out of the Chicago Steel. He goes 21st overall. I had him at 16, so dropping 5 spots. Yegor Surin at 22. I had Yegor Surin at 27. He jumps up 5 spots. Going fast here now. Stian Solberg goes 23rd. I am up at 13, so he drops 10 spots. Next is Cole Badone, who I think I had out of the first round. I did have him out of the first round. Dean Letourneau, who I had him at 29, he goes 25th. Liam Greentree, who I had at 20th, he goes 26th. Marek Vanacker, who I had out of the first round. Matvei Gradin. And then right now we have Emil Hemming from the Dallas Stars is the most recent pick at 29th. As we get to this point in the draft, as we get to the late first round of this draft, it is a weaker draft, so I do expect kind of all over the place, some reaches, some falls, but honestly, this was one of the more difficult but more fun drafts to kind of scout and to do analysis on, and I think I did pretty good. I think I was pretty close with a lot. The middle of the first really surprises me how well I did, because I felt like that was the area of the draft where it was kind of all over the place. That will do it for this Friday edition of the GSMC Hockey Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. All the support means so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Rate us on any podcast platform that you are listening to on if you did enjoy this episode. Also remember to like or to follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram if you would like more content and updates from the GSMC Sports Network. Thank you all once again for tuning in to the GSMC Hockey Podcast, and all of you have a fantastic and wonderful night.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn ain't that great.